Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about my 5-star reads. So all of my favorite books. I've gone through all the books I've read on my Goodreads to see which books I've rated 5 stars over time and which books I still now agree with and resonate with being 5 stars. If you go on my Goodreads, you'll find some books that are 5 stars that I've decided to not talk about in this video because I'm not like sure that it's a 5-star anymore. I would have to reread it, or I just know without rereading it that it's probably not a 5-star after all. So these are the books that I found. I believe there are 15 books here that we're going to be talking about. So I am very excited. So let's just get started and talk about the first book. If you've been watching my channel, you might know this first one because it is my favorite series of all time, my favorite universe, characters, books, everything. It is the Addicted Calloway Sisters series, but not just that series, it's like the whole universe. So there are more books than just the Addicted Calloway. I have all these books from this one to this one. This is all the Addicted Calloway universe, and there are many more that I don't even own. Not every single book in that universe is a 5-star read, but a lot of them are. So I've just taken this one because this is the epilogue novel. It's the 10th book in the series, where it has all the original 6 characters' point of views in this book, and it just is phenomenal. It's the best epilogue novel I've ever read. I read this book 3 times and I love it. But to just explain, if you don't know the Addicted Calloway Sisters series, it is actually 2 series. That's why it's so long. It is the Addicted series and also the Calloway Sisters series. It started out originally as the Addicted series, which is following Lily and Lo. Lily is a sex addict and Lo is an alcoholic. They are childhood best friends, and I believe in like high school they decide to fake date. And they're still fake dating now that they're in college, which is when the first book starts. And they are like the meeting point. Through their addictions and everything, that's where the rest of the characters come in. We follow 2 of Lily's other sisters, Rose and Daisy, and they got their own books in the Calloway Sisters series, and they each have 2 books. And then we also have their love interest as well, which then resembles the core 6. This series has the best found family ever. Obviously they are sisters, so that's actual family, but the friend group that they make, these 6 people, are literally amazing. I have never read any book or series like this ever before because it's not really interconnected standalones, because each couple has more than 1 book and you can't really read one without the other. Because if you didn't read Lily and Lo's books, you would miss out on some like very fundamental things that happen in between, for example, Rose and Connor's first book and Rose and Connor's second book. So I'm obsessed with this series and universe, and I have been since I read it for the first time in like summer 2021. So we're coming up on 5 years soon since I read it for the first time, and I still love it just the same. Then next up, I don't own this book, but it's Into the Blue by Emma Brody, which is a very recent 5-star. It's actually my latest 5-star read, so definitely resonate with that one still. It is a second chance romance where we follow AJ and Noah. And what is different about this second chance romance is that it's not like dual timelines or anything like that. The book is fully told in chronological order, and the book is told in 4 parts. So the first part is their first summer when they met each other and they start like falling in love, and then you see something that happens at the end of part 1, and then you follow them for I don't even know how long. It has a pretty big time jump, but you just follow them. It's from AJ's point of view, and it's so beautiful. The writing was amazing, and the story focuses a lot on like improv acting, which is a little bit like different, I would say. So for example, in one of the parts they're filming a TV show where they are the main characters, but it's all improv. And that first summer they spent together, they were being coached by Noah's grandmother, who is a famous theater actor. So she was teaching them how to do improv. So they know each other so well because of these cues and how they can just like make up a cool story from just talking to each other and doing improv. And they just feel like fated soulmates. Like they are perfect for each other, and they keep wanting to be together, but there's some reasons that they can't. And it all makes sense in my opinion in the book. Like I don't feel like you will get annoyed by the reasoning, because I feel like it is valid. And I don't even really know how to explain what it's about other than that. Like they have a summer together and something happens and they just feel like they're perfect for each other, but you just see them like kind of circling each other over and over. Like they keep coming together and trying to resist their pull, and it's just, oh, it was so good. The next 5-star read I actually had in a vlog, which is The Names by Florence Knopp. I loved this book, and I also just made one of my friends read it, and she also rated it 5 stars, so it's not just me. It was so good. In the first chapter of this book, we see Cora, who just had a beautiful baby boy, and she has to name her son, but she's kind of feeling conflicted. So her husband is an abusive man, and in his family, it is tradition that you name each son the same. So she's supposed to name her son Gordon, which is the name of her husband, but she doesn't really want to do that because she wouldn't want to name her child after her abuser. And then she has 2 other names in mind, one that her daughter comes up with and one that she comes up with. So we see her go in to register the baby name, and then that's when the whole story unfolds. It keeps changing in these 3 parallel lives where she names the baby either Gordon, Bear, or Julian. We see what happens when she names the baby these 3 names and what his life will turn out. You get 1 chapter per life, and then it skips 7 years, and then you get 1 chapter again, and it keeps going to do that until he is 35 years old. I thought it was brilliant, unlike anything I've ever seen. It's really just like the butterfly or like domino effect about how a single decision in your life, her naming her child, changes the whole trajectory of his life. And it was so beautifully done. There are some great quotes in this book, and it's also about domestic violence and kind of 3 different alternatives, or like 3 different outcomes that a victim of domestic violence can experience, seeing how Cora turns out in these 3 lives, and also how the sister, like all their lives are just so different depending on what his name is. And I just thought it was beautifully done, and I absolutely recommend this book to everyone. Next up, we have Atmosphere, which was my first 5-star read of 2026, which I also have in a vlog. I loved this so much. I haven't read a Taylor Jenkins Reid book in so long. I don't even remember when the last time was, maybe literally 2022, 2023, something like that. I never read Carrie Soto's Back, but I was just blown away by this book. I loved it so much. We follow Joan Goodwin in the 80s because she ends up joining NASA to be one of the first women in space. We see her in this friend group that forms that are like in the same class as her to train to become an astronaut, and it's just so interesting. But other than that, there's also this whole love story happening, and it's so good. It actually says it right here, a love story, and I didn't really know that going into it, that it was going to have a romance in it, but it did, and it was so incredibly beautiful. Also great quotes in this book, and you see kind of some glimpses into the present tense where a mission is going wrong and people are dying. Like that's like the first chapter. It starts out with that mission going wrong, and then we go back to when she joins the program. You're kind of nervous the whole time because they mention some names that are on that spaceship, and then you just know like some of these people are who you're getting to know throughout the story, and it was phenomenally done. I loved it, and I will definitely be picking up her next book whenever that one comes out. Then we have The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I read this book in December, and I absolutely loved it, and I have since then made my mom read it, and she also loved it. And I also just gave it to my sister for her birthday, hoping she'll read it. I don't know. I give her the receipt. If she wants to exchange it, she can, but I want her to read it because it's so good. So in this story, we follow 2 women who are sisters, and they live in France during World War II. And we see chapters where both of the sisters are together, but we also see them separate. So the older sister, her house gets infiltrated by a German soldier who comes to live in her house and like wants dinner made from her and everything. Like she has his own room in her house, which is so incredibly uncomfortable. And her husband is off as a soldier in the war because basically all men had to go to the front lines. So just like scary to have this German soldier in your house. And you just see in this book how horrible it was living under these times, like all the people who were back in France and not on the front lines, how everything was just changed, and you had to stand in line for hours and hours a day just to get even the smallest amount of food. And they were freezing because there were no like heat in the house, and they had no money, and so many people were getting fired, and like obviously all the Jews and stuff were being taken away. It's such a powerful story, and it really focuses on women's side of history. So we see how these 2 sisters, how each of them are trying to like resist the German soldiers in each their own way and fighting against the war. And that's what I really love about Kristen Hanna's stories, because they take real life events, like the other book I read by her, The Women, the Vietnam War. They take real life events, make it into like a fictional story to showcase how women played a side in history that isn't a part of normal history books, because we focus so much on the soldiers and like everything that they did, but we don't focus on what the women actually also did during these times. And I absolutely love this book. I sobbed my eyes out like the last 30 minutes or so. I was just inconsolable. I'm so sorry about how much the lighting changes. There's a cloud that keeps going over the sun and continue to like go away and go over and all that, so it keeps being like sunny as I'm literally talking. It goes away, so I'm so sorry about that, but I hope it's okay. Right before I read The Nightingale, I also read another 5-star reads, and that's very, very rare. To read 2 5-star reads in a row never happens to me. But that was The Correspondent by Virginia Evans, and I just bought this in London, the hardcover edition. I think this cover is just so beautiful. I would definitely reread this book at some point. It was so good. So in the book we follow Sybil, and she is in her 70s, and all she does all the time is correspond. She loves writing to people, emails, letters, text messages, like anything that she can think of she will do. And she has like designated time slots where she will sit down at her desk and she'll correspond and write back to everyone who has written her, and it's just absolutely amazing. I believe the book takes place over like 10 or 15 years, and it's only written through correspondence. So let me show you. For example, we have a letter and it says December 25th, 2013. Dear, and from your neighbor, you know, and it's a little correspond message. And then we have another one. There's no dialogue, there is no inner monologue, nothing. Everything is told through what people write to her and what she writes back. You might think that that's boring, but it's really not, because throughout these 10 years, you can still tell like what is happening. You still see her find a little romance, because then she tells people about it, or she responds with the guy, or just other things happening in her life. Because one thing about Sybil is that she was adopted, so there are also parts in the stories where she's like thinking about taking a DNA test and like maybe reaching out to her birth family if she can find them through this test and stuff. So you see like that aspect of it, and then you see her struggling with losing a child when she was younger. One of her children, like when they were a kid, tragically died, so that's also talked about in this book throughout her correspondence. She corresponds with her daughter, she corresponds with like different guys, and like there's just so many people that she corresponds with. And I've heard the audiobook is supposed to be amazing because every character has their own like voice, and I think that's so cool. I would want to listen to that one day, to be honest. But just you should read this book. It's also just so easy to get through because it's only like 280 pages, and then some of it is so short because, like I said, like it's correspondent. So just like the one I just showed, literally so short. You should definitely read this book. Then we have another romance, which is Ghosted by J.M. Darhauer. I have read this one twice now. I read it the first time 2023, I think, or maybe 2022. I love this book so much, and I also loved it the second time around, and it was still a 5-star even though it had been years, because I reread it in like December, I think. In this book we follow Kennedy and Jonathan, and they met each other in high school. And this book is a second chance romance, so it does kind of have dual timelines, but not really. All the flashback chapters are written kind of like Kennedy's diary, but not entirely. She likes to write stories, so it's kind of a story about her and Jonathan, with like Jonathan, it's written like in a second person point of view, I believe, like you did this, you did that, stuff like that. Like that's how all the past chapters are. There aren't like that many, but let me see if I can find. Yeah, exactly. Like it says here, like property of Kennedy, and then what she wrote in here. And I really thought that that was like a cute way to tell the past chapters. But about the present, so Kennedy has a daughter who's 5 years old, and Jonathan is actually the father. He does know about her, so that's like not a spoiler or a secret or anything like that. But he is a famous actor and he's an alcoholic, so he's never actually met his daughter because Kennedy has told him to stay away. Like, if you're gonna drink, I don't want you around her daughter. So we see in the book, in the beginning kind of, where he has been sober and he's really trying, and now he wants to reconnect with both Kennedy and he wants to meet his daughter. And I love the daughter in here. I think she's adorable, and I just love Kennedy and Jonathan. I think they are so, I think they're so good together. And I know it's a second chance, and I know you can think all the things that he's done and whatnot, but like, I really think that he has grown, and I think that she was right to take him back. Like, I love this book so much, and it takes place in a small town, which I also obviously love, in the town where they met in the first place, and she still lives there and works at the grocery store while he's out being famous, and she kind of resents him, but then he comes back and he's the Jonathan that she remembers, and just, oh, I love. We actually have 2 more romances now, and I'm going to talk about them kind of together, but I'm going to explain each book. You'll see why. It is The Right Move and Play Along by Liz Tom Ford, which is book 2 and book 4 in the Windy City series. I love the whole series in general, but these 2 are the ones that I have given 5 stars, and they are interconnected standalones, so that's why I'm going to still explain what both of them are about, because if you want to, you can read only one or the other, or these 2 without the rest of the series, but I definitely recommend the whole series. They're all so good, but these are just my 2 favorites. So The Right Move follows Indy and Ryan, and in the beginning we see that Indy's boyfriend, current boyfriend, cheats on her. So now she's kind of like, what am I gonna do? I cannot live with him, because they were living together. They were like long-term partners. I think they've been dating for like 5+ years or something, like childhood best friends, high school sweethearts, everything like that. So she's like, what should I do? And she calls up her best friend, which is actually the character from book 1 in the series, and she's like, you know what, my twin brother, he has a spare bedroom in his apartment. I bet you can live there. Which Ryan is not happy about at all, but of course he does it because he can never say no to his twin sister. So Indy ends up moving in with Ryan, who, by the way, is a professional basketball player. So he's famous and rich. So he definitely it's like a big enough apartment where she can also stay there. And Ryan Shea, the man that he is the biggest acts of service guy that I've ever read about, I think. Like, he is perfect. He is so sweet and kind, and he loves her so much, so well. I can't even, like, it's so good. He is the blueprint for what a book boyfriend should look like. Ryan Shea, I will never forget you. It's so good. And there's also fake dating in this book, by the way, guys, because Ryan ends up telling his like team coach or something that he has a girlfriend. That's where Indy comes in to play that girlfriend. So love a fake dating scenario as well. This book is so good. And the other book in the series that I want to talk about is Play Along, which also phenomenal. It is about Kennedy and Isaiah Rhodes. Love, 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 love. This series is a sports romance series. So in this book we have a baseball player, which is Isaiah. He is a professional baseball player. Kennedy is like a doctor or something that works for the team. So she's there like every time they go out, like she goes with the team on their trips and whatnot, and she's worked for them for 3 years. And that whole time Isaiah Rhodes have been flirting with her because he has a little crush on her, which is so cute. But I believe that Kennedy has had like a fiance or something that whole time, and then one day Isaiah realizes she no longer has a ring on her finger. So while they're out together in like one of the first chapters in this book, they end up getting really drunk and they get married in Vegas. And she's like, crap, what can I do? But they end up having to play it off, so it's like a fake marriage where they have to pretend to be married so that she doesn't get fired. I think there were maybe pictures or something, like paparazzi pictures of them getting married, and now they had to like play it off because I don't think you're allowed to be with a player or something unless it's like serious. So they have to act like they're actually like in love. But obviously Isaiah is eating this up. He loves her. Such a good book. I cried, I loved it, and Isaiah. And like, if you don't like one, then maybe you like the other, because Ryan Shea is like a grumpy guy, whereas Isaiah Rhodes is a golden retriever. So it's 2 different vibes. Next up we have A Not Romance, which is My Friends by Frederick Bachman. I've talked about this author many times before. I absolutely love him. I love his writing. I want it injected into my veins. I think he is the best author I've ever read. Well, I think he's the best writer that I've ever encountered. He writes absolutely magnificently. I can't even put it into words. Like, it's so good. I could probably open up any page and there would be a quote. Let's try it. Okay. You tell me stop. Did you say stop? Okay. Yeah, you know what? Let me read you something. They were 14 years old then. It was the first time Ted had lost someone he loved. When you grow up, you realize that 14 is actually quite late. That not losing anyone in all the years before then was really just luck. Ted remembers how he cried sitting in the pew afterward, inconsolably and violently, until his throat stung and his chest ached. Until then, he hadn't known that grief is physical, an abuse of the living. Like, what do you mean I just turned up any random page and that's the writing you found? I can't even. But to explain what the book is about and not just what the writing is like, we have kind of two stories in one. So first off, we have our main character, Louisa. She is 18 years old. Actually, like, I think it's her birthday when the first chapter starts. She's a foster kid, and I believe she was living in a group home, but you can't stay there past 18, so she left and now she's kind of homeless. But she's obsessed with this one painting of these 3 kids sitting at the end of a pier. So she goes to like an art exhibition or something that's showing the painting because she wants to see it in real life, because this whole time she's only been seeing it on this little postcard that she carries with her everywhere. And she's like imagined this whole life about these 3 kids on the painting and how they're friends and how they're her friends, and she's like just made this whole like story up about them. And she ends up meeting the artist actually outside the gallery, and he unfortunately passes away, but he ends up giving her the painting, like in his will or something. He gives her the painting, which is, by the way, worth millions, I believe. It's like worth a lot of money. And she ends up with getting the painting, she ends up meeting the artist's best friend, which is Ted, and he is our other main character. Ted finds her quite annoying. He's like a quiet guy, he's a history teacher, doesn't do well with an 18-year-old who talks a lot, but she ends up kind of not following him really, but she's like, I don't know what to do with the painting. I'm gonna go with you home to the city where that painting is from. So that's what she does, and a lot of the story takes place on the train ride, where Ted is telling her the story of that painting. So that's kind of our other story and our other timeline, because when he talks, that goes into like present tense in a way. It becomes the story we're reading about. These 4 friends during a summer in like the 80s, I believe. I think it was 25 years or so from the present tense. He goes back and tells the story about when they were like 13, 14 years old. And it's so incredibly good. It has a lot of dark themes and how nothing is perfect, and it's about abusive parents and grief and just all these things. And it's so freaking good. And it just really focuses a lot on art, about friendship, and about grief. I want to read like the thing that's is on the back here in big letters. It says, "You have to take life for granted," the artist thinks. The whole thing. Sunrises and slow Sunday mornings and water balloons and another person's breath against your neck. That's the only courageous thing a person could do. I love it. I really do. And another book by Frederick Bachman that I'm going to talk about is Beartown, which was not my first Frederick Bachman book, but the first one where I really fell in love with his writing, because before that I had read Anxious People and I didn't love that one. But to talk about Beartown, it's always kind of hard to explain, and when people have asked me like, what's your favorite book, and I've said Beartown, and they ask me what it's about, I'm like, it's kind of like about hockey, but so much more than that. So it takes place in a small town in Sweden where everything, and I mean everything, revolves around hockey. So the town's economy literally like is affected by how well their junior hockey team does. And so if they're doing really well and they're getting far in the season and everything, then everyone is happy and the economy is blooming. But if it does really poorly, then the opposite happens. The story is about a lot more than that, and I actually wanted to read the last few sentences on the blurb of the book because I feel like that describes it pretty well. Okay, it says, "Beartown explores the hopes that bring a small community together, the secrets that tear it apart, and the courage it takes for an individual to go against the grain. In this story of a small forest town, Frederick Bachman has found the entire world." To explain that a little bit more, we have one of our characters who goes through something really traumatic, causes kind of chaos in the whole town, and rumors are spreading and people are like don't know what to believe, and everyone goes against our main character, and it's just a heartbreaking read and trigger warning for sexual assault. But the overall story is so beautiful and well done, and just all the characters, you feel like there's a lot of like world building, if that makes sense, to bring us up to that point, but it just makes so much sense. And actually, I want to read you guys the very first page of the book, because it just, you read that and you're like, oh my god, I can't wait to like read this book, because what? So I opened up chapter 1. It is 5 sentences long, and this is all it says. Late one evening toward the end of March, a teenager picked up a double-barreled shotgun, walked into the forest, put the gun to someone else's forehead, and pulled the trigger. This is the story of how we got there. Literally phenomenal. So you see this happen, and then we like kind of go back and you see how everything led up to that moment where someone pulls the gun on someone else in the forest. Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal done. I could not be any more obsessed with his writing or this book if I wanted to. I don't own a physical, which is literally a crime, and I want to. I just haven't gotten there yet. It is a whole series though, Beartown. It has 3 books, and how much I love it is crazy because I have still not finished the 3rd book. I want to, I really do, but I think I have to start over, which kind of is annoying because I'm 60% through and it is over 700 pages, which means I'm like 300 to 400 pages into the book. So I feel like I just need to wait a little bit longer, and then I'll go back to the beginning, because I don't remember a lot because I read it like in March last year, I think. But nonetheless, let's move on from Fredrik Backman. I cannot wait for the next book whenever that comes out. I don't even think he's announced a new book, but I need a new book. We have The 7-Year Slip, which is a romance, but kind of paranormal in a way, because it's not entirely normal. We follow Clementine, and her aunt sadly passes away, so she inherits her aunt's apartment. And her aunt has always told her that the apartment is magical. But obviously Clementine doesn't really believe her, but she still likes to hear the stories about how sometimes when you walk into the apartment, it can transport you 7 years into the past or 7 years into the future. Clementine one day walks in and she's confused because everything in the apartment is how her aunt had it, and none of her stuff is there. But there's a guy there, and she realizes that somehow she was transported 7 years into the past, where one summer this guy had lent the apartment from her aunt. We kind of see both the present tense, like in her normal, I mean everything is in the present tense because everything is happening for her now, but for the guy this happened 7 years ago. So if she meets him out in the real world, for him that happened 7 years ago, which is a little bit crazy. So we see her like struggle with her job and doesn't really know if it's her passion anymore, and she has to work with this new guy and all these crazy things. And then we have a lot of the chapters where she's in the apartment with this guy who was there 7 years ago for him, and it was just, it's so good. The writing is great and I just love it. And I annotated this book for one of my friends in the fall, and she also really loved it. So I love this book, it's so good. The next one we have is a different genre from everything else we've talked about, which is The Inmate by Frida McFadden. This is probably one of the only thrillers I've ever rated 5 stars. And again, with my friends, I just had a friend read this like 2 days ago, I think, and she also loved it. So what can I say? I have great book taste. No, but like this is so good. And I read a lot of thrillers like 3 stars or something, sometimes 4 as well, but they're never like amazing. And I loved this book so much. It's my favorite Frida McFadden book, and just it's so good. It's not even that long. I think it's like a little over 300 pages. Very easy to get through. I read it all in one day, so did my friend. It's just so good, and you want to know what happens. Honestly, I kind of just need to like read some of the back for you to like really, for you to understand what it's about. As a new nurse practitioner at a maximum security prison, Brooke Sullivan is taught 3 crucial rules. 1. Treat all prisoners with respect. 2. Never reveal any personal information. 3. Never ever become too friendly with the inmates. But nobody knows that Brooke has already broken the rules. Nobody knows about her intimate connection to Shane Nelson, one of the penitentiary's most notorious and dangerous inmates. They certainly don't know that Shane was Brooke's high school sweetheart, the star quarterback, the golden boy who's serving a life sentence for a series of grisly murders, or that Brooke's testimony was what put him there. But Shane knows. He knows more than anyone, and he will never forget. Literally so good. So if you couldn't really tell what I was saying, if that didn't like grip your attention, or if you still want to know more, we have our main character Brooke, who moves back to like her hometown because I believe both of her parents died, and she has a son, and the only job she can find is at this prison, but she doesn't really want to work there because she knows that Shane is there, who is the guy that she put away in prison. But she has to work there, and of course he has to get hurt, so she does have to interact with him. And he seems so nice and so sweet, and you're wondering, and she starts to wondering, did I put the wrong guy away for life? Like, did he actually do it? Because then we have this other guy who is Tim. He works at the school where her son goes, and they used to be friends. He was there as well in that house where some of their friends were murdered. There's some red flags coming up here with him, and now she starts to wonder, did Tim do it and not Shane? I felt gaslit the whole book. I could not figure out, because it seemed too good, you know, like Shane seems so nice, so of course he couldn't have done it, and Tim seems so suspicious, so he must have done it. But did he, or did someone else? Like, is it a third person? Like, it's just, I could not stop reading it. I loved it so much. It was just so good, and I was so entertained, and I loved my friend. She was sending me updates being like, I think this happened, or this, or this, or this. Like, she has so many ideas, and I was just like, you're never gonna get it. You're never gonna get it. I never guessed it. She didn't either, and I just... I need everyone to read this book so I can talk to people about it. I want to yap. The second to last book is a series, and it is the Zodiac Academy series. As well as the Addicted Calloway, not every book in this series is a 5-star read, but the overall series is a 5 or 6-star read. I love Zodiac Academy, and I 100% understand everyone who gave this series 1 star and hates it, because it is cringy in some ways. And it is like fun and not, it's definitely like an acquired taste in some ways, but it's still a very, very popular series. So obviously it's not just me who love it, and I have a lot of friends who've read this series, and I love hearing their updates about it because I just love it. It has one of my favorite couples in this series. Like, I love them so much. I love the whole series. I don't own them all yet, but we have them here. So I have the first one twice because I have 2 different copies of it, and then I have up until book 6. So I still need the last 3 because it does have 9 books plus some novellas. I don't own the novellas, and I also haven't read all of them. I think I've only read one of them actually. But to explain the series, it a little bit in some very small ways, especially in book 1, gives Harry Potter. We have 2 sisters, twin sisters actually, Tori and Darcy, and they turn 18 years old. They're living in the human world. Everything is going great. Well, not really. They're kind of poor and all that, but you know, shows up at, and then a man shows up at their door and is like, you guys are fae. So you can see how that turns like into Harry Potter. He turns 11 years old, and a man turns up to tell him that he's a wizard, and he says, I'm a what? And they're also like, are you high? Like, are you dumb? Like, of course we're not fae. But yes, they are. They're actually not just fae. They are the long lost heirs who everyone assumed dead. Their parents were the king and queen of Solara, which is where the story takes place. So this guy, he's actually a teacher at the school. His name is Lance Orion. I thought his name was Orion. English is not my first language. After I had read all 9 books calling him Orion, I found out his name was Orion. So yeah, anywho, he brings them back to the Fae world where they have to do this ceremony to get their powers, because there are 4 powers that you can have. So on your first day there, and once you like become of age, so when you're 18, there's a ceremony going on, and you can either get wind, earth, fire, or water. And some people have 2 powers. And then whichever power you get, that's the house you go into. There are 4 houses with points and everything, just like in Harry Potter. But obviously the world is a lot different, and it's not YA at all. Don't mistake that. It does have spice, and it is an adult fantasy. I love this series so much. I could never get over it. I wish I could read it for the first time. I read all 9 books back to back. It took me like a month or a month and a half or something. It's over 7,000 pages long in total, because almost every book gets longer than the previous. Like, some of the books in the series are 1,300 pages long. You should still read it though. Don't make me deter you, because those are the later ones, and you're already gripped, and you're already like in too deep to not want to read that long of a book. The prosecution rests their case and says, read this book. And now for the last book. Drum roll. The last book is kind of one book, but it's also a series, but it's also one book. So it's the Mindfuck series. You see how it has the word series, right? But it's also kind of one book, because you can get, there's an Amazon copy that is just one book, and the books in the series are so short that you can still read the whole series in one day. That's what I did, because they're all like 100 or so pages long. I think the longest is literally 150 or so. So the whole series book is less than 600 pages, I believe. It's kind of one book, you know? It's so freaking good, you don't even understand. Before I begin, this is, by the way, a dark romance. I don't normally read dark romance, and I feel like even if you don't like dark romance, you could potentially like this one. So let me explain it. We have Lana Myers, who is our main character. She is a serial killer. And then we have our other character, who is Logan Bennett, and he is an FBI profiler trying to look for this serial killer who he believes is a man. But he ends up meeting Lana. I don't remember how they meet up, but they start dating, and he has no idea that his girlfriend is who he's looking for and who is killing all these men. To be fair, in my opinion at least, Lana was very much justified. She's not a serial killer that goes around killing like random innocent people. So that's why you can still root for her, because the people she kills actually deserved it, and they've all wronged her in this traumatic incident that happened when she was younger. So she's one by one coming and picking them off, killing them. Absolutely masterpiece of a story. I actually need to reread it because it's been years, and I need to own the physical copy, and I need to reread it because it is so good and so addicting. There are also definitely a bunch of trigger warnings, and if you're sensitive, if you have a sensitive stomach, don't eat while read it, because I did, and I almost barfed because some of it was so gross. I can't even lie, some of it was so gross, but it's so good, and it's definitely a 5-star read. But those were all my 5-star reads. Those were all the books that I wanted to talk about. Obviously, hopefully we get many more 5-star reads in this lifetime. I mean, I will definitely, and then who knows in 5 or 10 years if any of these books will still be my 5-star reads. You never know, because reading is subjective and reading taste changes so much, which is why some of the books I've rated 5 stars in the past are definitely not anymore. But anywho, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you got some new book recommendations. Let me know if you've read any of these books or if you want to read any of these books, and then I will see you guys next week for a new video. Bye!